Hey Fluffs, welcome back to another Eclipse with Daily Friday video. Hope you guys had a wonderful week thus far. I know voting season's around this, so probably all bombarded by uh, voting advertisements and whatnot, but hopefully you went out and voted for whomever candidate you wanted. Aside from that, I wanted to just take this little time and do a top 10 of my personally favorite furry animes or furry-esque animes. Not all of the ones on the list I would consider necessarily furry inherently, but I'm taking the step and calling some of them just because of the popularity either within the fandom or just within the content that they might have there. So, without further ado, let's get started. Number 10 is a little bit of a raunchy one to start off with, but that's Monster Musume. And for those of you not into anime or know about it, essentially it is a romantic dating sim uh, esque anime in which this human gets partnered with a lamia for a roommate to take in during a monster exchange. And essentially, throughout the whole anime, these different monster exchange students are getting paired up with this dude and trying to flirt with him, hit on him. It's honestly really cute, but it does get raunchy at times. But I'm a sap for love stories, so I figured I'd include it in at least the top 10. Just because there are a lot of fantasy-esque creatures in this, and it's more on the looter side of things, I would say. Number 9 is going to be Jinjutsuna. Essentially, this one is a story of a shrine maiden who um, can see the spirits of the Japanese shrines, and the main shrine spirit that she communicates with, as she's nicknamed Jin, if I remember correctly, um, is pretty much a protector, I think he's like a wolf. Essentially, uh, it's just a really soft, kind of feel good anime as far as everything goes. I wouldn't necessarily call it furry uh, off the bat, just because, I mean, the main story is pretty much feudal Japan, or at least maybe a little postmodern Japan, but still kind of lingering on a lot of the shrine stuff with the shrine maidens. But the fact that a lot of the story takes place within the spirits and being highly anthropomorphic, it leads to a pretty really good touching story. It's a really short anime too. You can like watch it pretty much in one sitting. I'm not doing really justice on describing it, so give it a look up and see if it's something interesting to you. I thought it was pretty good, but again, I kind of like the touchy romance stuff. Number 8 I think is everyone's favorite blue hedgehog, or at least favorite cartoon, Sonic X. So you can't deny Sonic has a widespread amount of popularity within the furry fandom. I had to include it. My personal favorite from Sonic is obviously Tails. He's a cute little fox, and obviously one of the best sub characters that there are. Really good as far as everything goes. Both the Americanized version and the Japanese version for Sonic X are pretty spot on. So if you haven't seen them when you were a kid, watch them now. They're on Netflix and Hulu, I believe. Give them a watch. Who doesn't love Sonic and his wacky, fun adventures? Although I would say, do watch the Japanese version if you haven't, because it's actually a little more PG-13 than the 4 Kids version, being more PG. So you get a little more of that darker element if you do choose to watch the Japanese version. But Sonic, everyone, woo! Gotta go fast. Number 7, if I can hold up the right amount of fingers here. 4 and 3, 2 and 5. Um, it's gonna be Gretzko, and that's on here because red pandas are cute. I actually really love the story of a Gretzko. Um, it's about a red panda who goes through daily life and things get hard. And what's their favorite pastime but going to a karaoke bar and screaming the death metal about all of her problems? Now, uh, this is a fairly pretty popular one in a lot of people's books. It's really good. It's going on season 3 now, I believe, or it is already on season 3, probably heading into season 4. If you haven't watched it, give it a try. It has a nice little sub romance in some of these episodes. And it's kind of like just a small slice of life anime as far as a day to day basis. So uh, it kind of makes it one of those feel good animes just to kind of sit back and relax. Not something you have to binge, obviously, but I definitely do recommend it if you're in wanting something to watch and you haven't given it one yet. Number 6. Now, this one takes you back, probably. But this one's going to be Inuyasha. And you're probably wondering, well, why include this? He's a demon or a demon wolf in a sense. And that's exactly why. I mean, he's got the ears. He can transform into um, a demon wolf at later part of the anime, if I remember correctly, or at least his brother could. And honestly, um, it is a bit of a stretch, but as I said, uh, some of it kind of has to be because there's not a whole bunch of representation out there for furry animes. But this, I think, is an average kind of okay stretch, just because. I mean, you got Kirara, you have Inuyasha and his brother as well, and obviously there's a lot of feral creatures. You even have um, what's his name? Chippo has a great story, great romance, and overall, I mean, it's a classic anime. Everyone and their brothers watched Inuyasha at one point in their life, and honestly, it's probably in a lot of people's top 10 favorite animes of all time, I would say. But moving on to number 5, probably all the talk, everything that you go into uh, furry anime is going to be Beastars. Now, I loved Beastars, but it definitely wasn't a take-home best anime for me. I definitely think there are better, but it doesn't take away that it's a really, really, really good anime. And if you haven't seen it, I'd definitely give it a watch. Um, it definitely has the anthropomorphized world of everything. You definitely all the main characters um, having some kind of aspect to them. Uh, do love Legoshi. Uh, obviously, got to represent the Grey Wolves here. But honestly, um, for me, this is gonna be probably really controversial. So don't hate me. Flame me in the comments if you want. But honestly, I don't really ship the relationship between him and Haru as much. I just didn't really like Haru as a character. And honestly, I feel like the development for her could have been a lot better. Honestly, I just didn't. Something with her didn't really click to me, but I honestly uh, am going to be a little biased on that opinion. I just didn't really like her appeal at the start, but for those that have probably read the manga, she's probably a little better in the manga, but I didn't, so I don't really know the connection there as good or as well. But I definitely think there are better options for Legoshi, and hopefully he uh, is at least able to pursue one of them. I doubt that's going to be the case, obviously, with how the anime is gone at that point. But I can only hope. Now, moving on to number four is a more recent one, and honestly, one that I kind of just stumbled into just because it was on Netflix and just newly released, and that was BNA. BNA was honestly such a good little short series of an perfect utopia like world for um, beast monsters or beastmen. Uh, if you haven't given this one a watch, I'd highly suggest it. It has really good comedy value, really good action value, and a little bit of a sub romance in it in a sense. But honestly, it I didn't expect to stumble on anything with that, but I'm glad I did just because it had a really good thing. Even the little filler episodes that were pretty funny. I do appreciate a good comedy and like a good like serious story from time to time, and I think it had a really decent story as far as things go. Like a human one day being able to transfer into a beastman without any rhyme or reason for it, and the whole uh, plot covers to track down why this happened and um, if this kind of thing should be something worried about looking into, and all sorts of trouble gets happened, and fear that some person can transform into a horrible monster against the humans, and essentially like always a war confrontation between humans and beast monsters. It just had a really good effect to it to me. Moving on to number three is going to be one of my favorite animes. And that's just honestly for the romance and things alone. As I said, there's going to be a lot of romance. I'm a sap for it. I may be ace, but I do enjoy good romance animes just for the feel good moments and the portrayals of them. This one's going to be Spice and Wolf. Now, probably some of you knew this one was going to come in. I wouldn't exactly call it furry, obviously, but the main character, Hollow, is a fox spirit. Um, and throughout the whole adventure or uh, series, she is with the merchant, and they get into a whole bunch of different antics along the way with various tradesmen and various people. All the meanwhile, while he's trying to hide her uh, identity as a fox person. Man, honestly, the relationship that develops between the two is just really wholesome, and by the end of it, it just craves you wanting more, or to at least see how it develops. Unfortunately, this is one of the ones where um, I think the manga takes it a little bit further later on, but the anime just kind of stops dead in its tracks, and it's unfortunate. But hopefully one day they'll pick up there and continue on. But if this is one that you haven't seen, I would totally recommend trying to find it someplace for you to watch. It is really, really good story to it, really wholesome, a little bit of tragedy in it, and overall, it'll keep you coming back for more. I think, at least in my opinion, it did. Now, number two, you're probably like, if this is number two, what's number one gonna be? And this is gonna be really controversial in itself too. So feel free to swap number one and two based on your popular opinion. But for me, number two is going to be Pokemon, and number one is going to be Digimon. Now, I don't have to explain why both of these are number one and two, respectively. You can honestly flip flop them how you want. For me, I was more of a Digimon fan for the games and for the anime. And hell, even the most recent remaster or remake of the first Digimon adventure. which I still need to watch at this point. Uh, just wanted to wait for all the episodes to come out. Is uh, going strong. Now, Pokemon and Digimon have both always been prevalent in everyone's hearts, uh, some more than others. Pokemon obviously probably has more of the general global appeal. Obviously, every year Pokemon game comes out, every year a new Pokemon season comes out. Whereas you don't get that as much with Digimon, unfortunately. But what you do get with Digimon, I think, is a little bit more of a kind of compact world where anything can be as it is. Now, since the digital world uh, uh, is pretty much that, it's a digital world. It can be literally coded or reformed to anything within that realm. And honestly, with how Digimon are able to speak and communicate, it has a lot more anthropomorphic properties than Pokemon that's only able to speak at most with psychic or by saying their name in a different way each time. Um, Now, I love both of them to death, and it was honestly a hard choice between 1 and 2 for them. But as I said, I've always been more of a Digimon fan. They both are great in their respects, and both deserve top spots. And honestly, I didn't want to cheap out just by putting them both in the number 1 spot with a slash. But honestly, both are so prevalent in the furry fandom. You definitely have Pokefurs, you have Digifurs. Uh, Obviously, you Google Gardevoir and on a furry certain furry websites, and you're going to be in for some lots of images. And if you did the same with Renamon or Garurumon, you're also going to be in for lots of images. There's no doubt that both have sparked the interest of the fandom, so that is why they are both number 1 and 2, respectively. But with that, that concludes the top 10 anime list for this episode. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you would change, what animes you would add, or at least furry-esque animes. I don't want it just to be anime in general because I wanted to keep it more relevant to the furry side of it. But if there's any reordering that you'd like to know, or whatever, if you would like to replace different ones with something else, let me know. Post your top 10 in the comments, and I'll definitely read through those. And obviously, if you have any recommendations for any furry animes that I haven't listed, obviously there's going to be some I missed or just some that I didn't think of at the time of making this. Let me know. I'm always love watching anime, and it's always a good pastime to do. But have a good one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.